Have you ever noticed that the finish line for your happiness keeps moving? That is the trap of discontentment. Today, let's look at why chasing more is breaking you and how to finally be okay with right now. Let's dive in.
Lewis works.
Discontentment doesn't remove the blessings, it removes the joy from them. And this is something that I personally struggle with myself, this idea of being content with the things the Lord has blessed me with. There's times that I've prayed for things, and then the things that the Lord has actually blessed me with, sometimes I find myself complaining about those same things. When I was seeking the Lord for the house that we live in now, there's sometimes that I find myself complaining about the work it takes to keep the house up, or the work it takes to keep the land up. Or I can think about times when I prayed about having a wife, and there's sometimes in my mind that I may complain about my wife, or I may say it verbally. And she'll probably tell you that there's plenty of times that I've probably complained about her. But my wife is a great blessing that the Lord has given me. And yet the very thing or the very person that the Lord has given me, I'll find myself complaining about that thing He's blessed me with. Sometimes in our minds, our marriages, or maybe your ministry, or even your job or your family, you may think it's all too much, but I think it's really just a state of mind. It's really how we look at things. One person may look at your situation and they might say, man, you're going through a lot of stuff. And then there may be another person who may be dealing with something that's even worse than what you're dealing with. And they may say in their minds, man, I wish I was in their situation. That's all they got to deal with. We have to realize that oftentimes the things that we're going through is not as hard or not as difficult as we think they are. We have to be careful about this because this actually shows ungratefulness. The Lord has answered a prayer that you've offered up to Him, or He's answered a desire that was in your heart. And in a few months later or years later, now you don't like the thing that the Lord has given you. And when we have these kinds of mindsets, I know personally for myself, it's important to realize that God didn't owe any of those things to me. He didn't have to give me the things He's given me. But out of His goodness, out of His grace, out of His mercy, He's given me this blessing. And like I said, this is something that I struggle with personally, but we have to put things in perspective. And oftentimes when we put things in perspective, we'll realize that we have it much better than what we really should have. Comparison is the thief to contentment, and social media is its favorite weapon. So what do I mean when I say comparison is the thief of contentment? It's real simple. When you start comparing yourself or comparing the things that you have in your life with what you see around you, or maybe someone off in the distance that you've seen on social media, or maybe even on television, right? We see celebrities and the lives that they live, and then we compare their lives with our lives. It steals your joy, and it steals your contentment. If you was content, now you've looked at the things that they have, and you notice you don't have them, you lack contentment because of that. What's interesting about this is some of those people who have a lot, they have a lot of things, they may envy something that you have, even though you don't have as much. They may envy the peace that you have, or they may envy the relationship you have with your family. Money oftentimes comes with some kind of sacrifice, right? You have to sacrifice something, not all the time, but a lot of time, there's something you have to give up to get money, whether if it's time, whether if it's compromising, whether if it's your attention, you have to give up something for money. And these people who have a lot of money, they may lack something that you may have. We have to be careful when we're looking at social media, because people are looking at, or people are showing you all of the good times. You know, when you're seeing things with celebrities and stuff like that, you see them at the pinnacle of their career, you're seeing all of the good things. You're seeing all of the things that they want you to see. But there's so many things that they may be dealing with There's so many things they may be dealing with in closed doors that's not readily available, or it's not easily seen to the public eye. We have to be careful when we start comparing ourselves to others, because comparison, if we're not careful, it can breed resentment. It's something that you'll start resenting some of the things in your life because you're comparing your life with somebody else's life. And the problem with that is you're seeing all of the good things that their life has, but you're not seeing the bad things. You're not seeing the things that they struggle with. You're not seeing the temptations that they face on a daily basis. You have to keep that in mind. And comparing yourself, it can, if you're not careful, can end up ruining your finances if you let it. What do I mean by that? People go into debt because they want to keep up with people who they're comparing themselves with. They want to keep up with the Joneses, right? If, such and such buys a new car, they want to get a new car as well. And such may have the money to do that. They may have paid it all in full with cash, but you go into thousands of dollars into debt to get the nicest car you can get. Well, really, you may just need, a used car instead of a brand new car. We have to be okay with where we're at in life, and we need to make sure that we're not comparing our lives with somebody else's life, because their lives oftentimes is not meant for us. God made us a certain way. He's placed us in certain circumstances for a reason. I didn't grow up in a rich family. I didn't grow up with a family who had a lot of money. As a matter of fact, both of my parents, they were raised in the projects. So automatically there's a financial disadvantage that I'm gonna have. And so it's very easy for me to think like, man, I wish I was like such and such's. I wish I lived with such and such's parents when I was younger, and I wish I had all the money that their parents gave them, when they passed away and things like that. Or there'll be a time where somebody tells me about the house that they live in and how they had a grandmother or grandfather who passed away and left them a house. And in the back of my mind, I would think like, man, I wish I had family members like that were so responsible with their finances that they left me something like that. But thinking about that, what does that actually do for me? Does that take me any further in life? Does that help me gain any additional skills? Does that increase my bank account? Does it help me become more spiritual? Probably not. It probably adds negative emotions, and it probably may even cause resentment if I let it. If you're not content with where you're at right now, you won't be content in the future. So I want to talk about something that I like to call the Mirage trap. The Mirage trap is really simple. In your mind, you think that success is only one step away, or peace is only will happen when you fulfill this next achievement in life. You stop living in the present because you're obsessed with a future that doesn't even exist right now. And there's actually someone in the Bible who acquired all of the things that any natural man would ever want in his life. That man was Solomon. Think about all of the things he's had. He's recorded to be the richest person who ever lived, and no one will ever be richer than him. Think about the richest person now. Solomon was as rich as that person was. He had anything you could think of at that time. All that life had to offer. He had servants, he had multiple wives, concubines, he had all of the food his heart desired, all of the sex his heart desired, all of the lands, all of the structures. He had it all. And yet Solomon came to the realization that no matter how much he would acquire, eventually all of these things really didn't matter, because he'd have to give it away to somebody else. We only can live in this life for a certain amount of time. If you're not content, if you're not satisfied right now, life is going to become a series of unfinished joys. You're always going to think, man, I can get this or I can get that. And this is going to make my life complete. And I'm here to tell you that it's not going to make your life complete. No matter what you do, if you're not content right now, when you get the stuff that you want, you're just going to aim higher. Now, I'm not saying that you can't aim for higher. I'm not saying you can't look for more. What I am saying is whatever you have right now, you have to be content where you're at right now. I've said this in other videos, but I remember when we first moved to this house that we live at now. We have 3.5 acres. For a minute, I was thinking, man, I wonder what it would be like to live on 10 acres. And when I really had to think about it, I was like, there's not much more that I can do with 10 acres right now than what I'm doing right now with the 3.5 acres I'm living on right now. I'm not going to build a bigger garden. I don't plan on having any more animals. I have bees, but like they don't take up a lot of space. There's really not much that I can do with 10 acres that's going to be much different than what I would do with 3.5 acres. As a matter of fact, if I had 10 acres, I just would have more work to do. And right now I got plenty of work. So that's just this trap of, it just shows the trap of wanting more, always achieving or striving for more and not being content with what you have right now. Contentment isn't found, it's trained. So I'm going to read Philippians chapter 4, verses 11 through 13. Not that I speak from need, for I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. I know how to get along with little, and I know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. So there's something that's very key that Paul said. He said he learned to be content in whatever circumstances he's in. So this kind of reminds me, there's normally two groups of people, especially like in Christianity. You know, you have those who say like, you should want a little bit. Then there's those that say, no, you should want overabundance. And Paul is saying, no matter where I'm at, I'm content. Doesn't matter if I have a little bit or if I've got a lot. Either way, I'm going to be content in whatever situation, whatever circumstance I'm in. And learning to be content is a skill that we should all strive to have. We should be content with the amount of money we make. We should be content with the jobs that we have. We should be content in the places we live. We should be content in our marriages. Because oftentimes when we're not content, it can cause us to do things that's not good. It can cause us to have bad attitudes. It can cause us to be ungrateful for what the Lord has blessed us with. You can't steal the peace of someone who's already content. Being content is a superpower. Peace is very fragile when it's determined based on outcomes in life. If you're waiting to have peace based on things going smooth and based on circumstances always going the way that you want it to go, you're going to never have peace. You're never going to have any kind of peace. And so contentment allows us to have peace in bad circumstances and good circumstances. Because believe it or not, you can lack contentment, you can lack that peace even when you have all of your needs and all of your desires met. The poor person lacks contentment because they don't have all of the things that they want. The rich man lacks contentment because he's worried about somebody stealing his money, or he's worried about not having enough money. You see how that kind of plays out? You'll never have peace if you lack contentment. Contentment anchors us to God, and God is the one who gives us peace. And God doesn't change. When things change in life, those things may change, but God doesn't. And we can find true peace, we can find true rest when we lean on Christ, when we look to the Lord for help. We can be content. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6, it says, "But godliness actually is a mean of great gain when accompanied by contentment." This is coming from the New American Standard. So If you're godly, all you need now is contentment. And that's the gain that you should be looking for in life. I want to be godly and I want to be content. If I have those two things, that's what you need. You don't need anything more than that. Because if I'm godly and I'm content, it doesn't matter what happens in my life. I'm going to have a good response and I'm going to be okay with whatever situation that happens to me. That to me is so powerful. That's more powerful than the richest man in the world. If I was godly and I had contentment, it wouldn't matter what happened to me at all. I can get through anything. I can see my way through any challenge in life. If I had those two things. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I lack in the godliness, sometimes I lack in the contentment, but there are times when both of those things kind of come together in my life, and at those times, that's when I feel the best. That's where I'm at my greatest. Is when I'm content and I'm also seeking to live a godly life. I can rest in the fact that God is sovereign, and I also can rest in the fact that Jesus is enough. The money, the ease of life, the pleasures, those are just extra. If I have Christ, I've got enough. I've got enough. Contentment gives you the freedom of not needing applause. So there's no need to compete, there's no need to rush, and there's no need to flex. I have no reason to prove myself. You have no reason to prove yourself to other people. There's no reason to do that. And this always gives you rest from this idea that you always have to hustle. Like there's this endless hustle, this rat wheel that you always got to run on. There's no need for that. Yeah, sometimes you should work hard. Sometimes you should hustle. But ultimately, you don't have to do it to prove yourself to anybody. If you need to work extra, do it for yourself. Do it for your family. If there's something extra you want, sure, work hard to get it. But you don't have to hustle and grind to keep up with everyone else. You don't have to prove yourself to anybody. See, when you work, and if you're in Christ, you don't have to work to fill some void that you have in your life. You don't have to work because of that. Christ has already filled that void in your life. In Him, you're complete. You're not complete when you get that extra raise. You're not complete because you have this job that has this fancy title. No, you became complete when you found yourself in Christ. When you repented, when you trusted Christ, when you believed the gospel, and the Lord changed your heart, you became complete at that moment. If you have found yourself in life trying to prove that you're something to other people, who, by the way, oftentimes they probably don't even care. And if you do achieve the thing that you thought that was going to change their mind, they'll find something else. Don't waste your time with those kind of people. Don't waste your time trying to prove who you are to other people, because Christ has already accepted you if you're in Christ. If you're in Him, you're part of the family. And that's all that matters. And just remember this, contentment doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It just means that your value isn't tied to that result. If it doesn't happen, life still goes on. See you in the next video. If you like what you saw today, subscribe and tap that notification bell. Until next time, stay diligent.
Want more? Watch one of these videos next. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated.